Sharon, what, darling?
You were talking about the thought of looking at the cup earlier. When you look at the cup, how pretty it is, it's a thought. It's the senses. Well, when
No, the senses see shape and colour. They don't have a thought. Then that triggers the mental consciousness where the story then comes up, what you think about it. But we think we see the story in the cup, but it's just made up by our mind.
Okay,
That's
so
the point.
when you so the thought comes first. So let's say you
No, the eye consciousness, in this case, sees shape and colour, then the thoughts take over and you write a little novel about it.
Okay, so what happens if your body is, you're doing a body scan and you realize you have like a fire in your belly, like an anger, but you're not really thinking.
I don't know about that. I don't do that one. I don't know. I've never in my life looked at my body to check out what my mind's doing. I just look at my mind. I find that very confusing, frankly. Maybe people, it's helpful. But then that's what I say. Okay, but I can answer your question. It's too late. Now it's not too late if you don't express it, but it's sort of like what's happening is this: you've waited until you see the evidence of the volcano. Oh, there must be a volcano happening, but it's a bit late because you can't stop it now. Almost, you've got to be able to see it well before it gets to the belly. That's the point I'm trying to make, and that takes clarity and introspection of your thoughts. This technique of scanning the body to look into the mind is good, but you've got to get past that eventually. It's very superficial. It's Buddha's technique, I'm trying to put it down. But you've got to be able to learn to hear the thoughts all rumbling, all the thoughts and the descriptions that are very instinctive, all running along underneath. We can't even notice them until they trigger the body. That's our problem. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
And that's what's tricky.
And that's where I think I've been having a hard time because I've been doing that scan a lot, and I'm looking, okay, that, and then the thought is, okay, that, and then, okay.
That's okay, just keep going,
yes.
Sharon, just keep going, Petal. You're doing great. Just keep going.
And the other question was, when you taste something, you see it, like for me, if I see sushi, I don't like the looks of it, so I won't even put it in my mouth. And some things I see and I like, and I taste.
Now hang on a sec, stop. Let's just do this analysis like we did before, just to help. What you're seeing is shape and colour. Your mental consciousness then, your attachment rises and it's not happy with what it sees. That gives rise to anger that then sees it as ugly, and that's why you don't put it in your mouth. That's what's happening, but it's all too quick. Just remember, we've got to see the process.
So what comes first, the taste of the thought when it is in your mouth?
What?
When you taste something, when you put something, let's say you see something, okay?
It's the same thing,
it's
sweetie,
the same
Sharon.
thing.
It's identical to whether the eyes see it. The five senses contact an object. All taste has the capacity to experience. The taste consciousness, the only thing it can cognize is sweet, sour, this or that. The rest of it, again, instantaneously, then you trigger your mental consciousness where you write the description. Oh, ugly taste. Oh, delicious taste. Exactly the same as looking at it. First, the senses see the bare bones of it. The rest of it is a story made up by attachment and aversion 99% of the time. Are you seeing what I'm saying?
Yeah, so everything is a story, basically.
Precisely, Petal. That's the point. So we got, and then the Buddha's saying, some stories are reasonably valid, and some are rotten, stinking, lousy liars leading us up garden paths for eons. You with me?
Yeah.
All right, Venerable Robina, I think I have to work on my attachment to suffering because I'm going to probably pay for this question too. So this was a question I had while you were talking earlier was, if we by nature are so negative and that comes so easy to us, is it possible that this is not our true state of mind? How do we prove that isn't the true default nature of the mind, the negative?
Because they're liars.
Who?
The delusions. They're liars. They're not based in reality. That's why. That's the thinking you have to do. And that's the thinking we have to do. That the Buddha's point is that the virtuous states of mind, they're called love, compassion, wisdom, they are states of mind as well. They're also stories. And then you have negative states of mind, which are stories. The virtuous ones are to some extent, and I have to qualify that, but we can go into that later, are valid, correct assessments of the universe. To some extent, because they're valid. That's why we've got to see that the virtuous feelings are also based in thoughts. And they are, because they're truthful and real and valid, that's why they're at the core of our being. Because the nature of mind is to cognize. The negative ones are simply lies. That's why they're not at the core of our being. This is what we have to understand, and this is why we can remove them. So first of all, conceptually, does it have any meaning, what I just said? Can you get your head around that?
Trying.
What does it?
This is the main point I'm really trying to, if we spend the rest of the day just on this point, it's crucial, it's vital to understand this, and we don't, hang on. Okay. This is why when Buddha says, oh, the nature of mind is pure and clear, blah, blah, we go, oh, isn't that lovely, all romantic, get all excited, like it's religion again. But he's trying to speak, he's speaking the truth there. And that's what we have to discover, to see the logic of how that's true, not just a made-up belief. That the mind's job is to cognize. Your mind's job is to cognize. Cognize what? Obviously, that which is true. And the Buddha says we're walking around cognizing things that are not true. They are the source of suffering and the pain, and why they cause suffering is because they're liars. So that's why we have to see them all as thoughts, and then we remove them from the mind. And what's left is the virtuous thoughts, which are in sync with reality and which are in the nature of bliss. We have to try and prove this logically. That's the point. So, let's look at how the delusions are liars. Can we continue to do that? Okay. And how the virtues are not. Okay? Alright. First of all, do you agree that if you're feeling, one day you look at your mind and you can decide there's a bit of love and a bit of kindness and a bit of forgiveness in there and a bit of patience and things are going nicely and you're feeling quite relaxed, can you accept that that's a good feeling?
Absolutely.
Generally speaking, okay? Yes. And then to the extent to which there isn't much anger, jealousy, pride, is that's how you feel, isn't it?
Yes.
Twitches is not that. And then the day you wake up with this anxiety and anger and all that, there's the extent to which you're miserable. You agree with that part? Yes. So that part we can prove pretty quick, can't we?
Yes.
Good feelings and bad feelings. All right. But it's tricky because when you get the cake, you have a very good feeling. And that's actually polluted. That's what's hard to see, but never mind that. Okay, we go into that. What Buddha's saying, first of all, what Buddha's saying is that there are countless trillions of minds in the universe. They're beginningless and endless. It's just the way it is. No one made them. They don't need making. It's an unnecessary addition to add a creator to the mix. Minds are just what existing. It's fundamental. It's the cause of all. It's the source of the entire universe. There's only two phenomena in the universe. Think it simply in a simple way. There's the four elements, which is what matter is. They just exist, and they're beginningless as well. They're beginningless. No one needs to create them. They're just there. And this is something interesting for our minds because we tend to want a beginning to everything. They just exist. That's just how it is. Have existed since beginningless time, and minds have existed since beginningless time. And then because they're talking Tantra of this relationship between these two, then the boss in these two is the mind. The boss is the mind. So everything the mind ever does, and has ever done, and does, leaves imprints in the mind or produce certain experiences in that mind. But of course, because of this intimate relationship between the physical world, because of the elements, they will impact upon the elements and cause our physical experiences. You hearing my words?
Yeah.
Just talking. This is the Buddha's view, okay? So he's saying, again, the statements he's making, is that happiness, what we call happiness, which is pleasant feelings, you can simply call it that. Okay, in Buddhist psychology, you've got what they call there's various states of mind. There's a package of the mind that you study in Buddhist psychology that's got 51 different states of mind. They study that. They call them mental factors, but what we call states of mind. And there's different groupings. So there are the 3 root delusions, there's the 6 delusions, the 20 secondary delusions, there's something virtues, and the blah, blah, blah. There's one set called the 5 always present. They're always there, functioning away, all making. So if all these 5 are working, you're working nicely as a human being. If you're missing a bit, you're going to lose the plot. One of them is called feeling, and this is not the same way we use the word. It's referring to 3 kinds of feeling. It's got a very specific meaning. It's referring to a pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, or neutral feeling. And that's all we've got. There's 3 kinds. They're all variations of these. So a pleasant feeling, Buddha says, is a natural result of virtue. The Buddha is saying that virtuous states of mind, which have are also concepts. A virtuous state of mind is also a concept, but to some extent it's in relation to it's in sync with reality. Okay, I've got to keep qualifying it because until we realise emptiness, there's still a mistake there. But never mind that for now. On a relative level, love, which is a thought, may you be happy. And then as I grow it and grow it and grow it and grow it, guess what it brings? Really nice feelings of love. But it begins with the bare bones thought. You with me?
Yes.
So that love, which we call a feeling, but it starts with a thought. It's necessarily a valid state of mind because it's in sync with reality. And reality, Buddha says, the way things exist naturally is that everything exists interdependently. The broadest meaning of reality in a conventional sense is everything exists interdependently. You with me? Everything exists interdependently. So here we are, trillions and trillions of individual state beings walking around. We're all linked, we're all connected to each other, aren't we? We all work with each other. Now we all know that a good day is when you're harmonious and you don't punch each other in the nose, and when you say, look at me and I look at you and we smile and things work and the traffic, everything works nicely. Everything works harmoniously, okay? Let's say between people. That's because love and kindness and generosity and the rest are prevalent. So they are valid states of mind, not because Buddha says they are, but because they're in sync with the reality of interdependence to some extent. Are you with me here?
Yes.
When you and I are being just friendly and chatting to each other, I listen to you, you listen to me, I look you in the eye, look in my eye, you sympathise with my headache, I sympathise with your constipation, whatever. You understand my point? Whatever. There's two things. It's a very warm feeling, and they're valid because they're to some extent in sync with the reality of interdependence. That's a fact, the Buddha says. This is a fact that we can prove. The reality is that everything's interdependent. The flip side is that everything's empty of existence from its own side. So the virtues are in sync with that, to some extent. Until we realise emptiness, there's still a sense of me being kind to you and me being kind to you separately. But they're valid states of mind, and they happen to have a characteristic of feeling good. Now when you and I start to fight, suddenly, what happens? That we is cut in half. And suddenly it's me and you over there, and oh, I'm unhappy, me over here, and how dare you say that to me, and you get all upset with me. It's all jagged and ugly and horrible, isn't it? So bad feelings, because why? Because we are now not any longer in touch with interdependence. We're in touch with the neurotic, self-pity, poor, miserable, bereft, lonely me over here that's been mean to by you over there, which is not how reality is. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it
So
does.
the Buddha says when we look into our minds, what's interesting is that we all want happiness. That's what drives every being. The wish to be satisfied, the wish to be happy, the wish to be happy. It drives everybody. No one teaches you this. But he says that's common. But the trouble is, because we have attachment and anger and jealousy and pride, we think getting what they want is the source of happiness. So that boy yesterday was really convinced. His attachment told him he was outraged and insulted and offended, so his anger told him when he did this he'd get happy. He built it up in his mind to the point where he went, he got his mother's guns, he'd been practicing, and he went and he shot everyone dead right in the heart. They said there were no injuries, no need for nurses and the traumas, because he got everyone perfectly. So he must have been thinking it for so long. He was convinced. And this is what drove him to the point where he had no choice but to do it because that's what he thought would be satisfaction. And that's the biggest lie of all time, we can see. So our habits at the moment, yeah, we're run by the delusions. These roommates are running the show. But from the simple point of view, do we want to be happy? Yes, please. Then we have to look, he says we've got to look at these. And then do our own tests, our own little workshop, and check out which ones make us happy and which ones don't. Getting a valid understanding of what happiness is, though. A satisfied state of mind, content, fulfilled, joyful, spacious, and a sense of interconnectedness. That's the quality of what a happy state of mind is. Valid happy state of mind. So we've got to look at taste, kind of better. And he says this is natural. No one made it this way. It's not a belief system. We've got to test it and try it out. Then nothing will stop us from doing it. So let's look then at how it's true, according to the Buddha, that the negative states of mind, the misconceptions, the delusions, the liars, are adventitious, which means let's see how we can get rid of them, because that's an insane idea in the West. No model of the mind in our culture would even go anywhere near asserting you can get rid of them all. If they think you are insane, if you suggested you can get rid of all anger, all ego, all depression, all jealousy. You really could be considered mentally ill. They give you a pill and knock you up. Definite. Because why? Because people like you and me are who create psychology. We base it on our delusions. So of course we believe we're right, you know. So it's just people, Freud was a person like you and me who had ego grasping, so he wrote his words in relation to that, you know. So the key is then here, which is how we try to get from the very beginning. In order to be able to understand attachment and how we can use it on the path in Tantra, we have to know what it is and how it functions, which is what we're doing here. Very nice guy.
But not attached.
Oh, that's right.
You'll have to work
Not
on that.
decaf, not attached.
Definitely. Okay. And I'm touching this cup, though. I like this cup a lot. It pleases me a lot. Blue pleases me very much. When I was a little girl, we had 7 children in our family, and I was always dressed in blue. They made me wear blue all the time. Who's that? We know this person?
Probably just wants to
Come on. Bring them in, bring them in. Come and do what they have to do. So, okay, let's look at, please come in. Come in, Devon, invite them in. Properly, politely, with your hands, open the door wide and move them in. Thank you. Sorry. Please come on in, please. Okay, are we concentrating? All right. Now let's see how it is logical that negative states of mind, delusions, are not at the core of our being, which is the point of all Buddhist teaching. Can we do that? Okay, first we'll try to establish as a concept. Can you get the idea around how it starts with being a thought? An elaboration of what's real, an exaggeration of the deliciousness. No, we're getting distracted. Don't get distracted. Are you listening?
Yeah.
We'll start, no, you weren't, I know. We're starting again. Okay. First we've tried to establish how we have mental consciousness and sensory, how they're distinctive, it's different. Then we've established that we've got positive and negative. Positive to some extent in sync with reality, which is why they're positive, why they're realistic, why they're valid, because they're based in interdependence. And how the delusions are based in the opposite of interdependence. They're based in the lie of delusion. That's why when we realise emptiness, we can cut them. And that's what we want to discuss here, okay? Can you hear what I'm saying? Okay, so the negative states of mind, as we've been seeing, are conceptual stories that we have believed in for eons, and we come fully programmed into this life, and we just believe in what they tell us. So we have to unpack those and see how they're liars. So let's prove even intellectually how we can rid the mind of these lies. So do you accept when I say to you, there are 2 cups on my table? Have a look on my table here. Do you see? When I make the statement, there are 2 cups on my table. Now look, remember we've got to start right at the basics. Buddha says we have to establish what does exist. When you're studying Buddhist philosophy, you start with that which exists. Why? Because Buddha's saying we're living in the fantasy world now of believing in things that don't exist. So we have to try and establish how you establish things. So we first establish my table. When I say those words, my table, you know, because those words coming out of my mouth refer to a table over here, right? Second, 2 cups on my table. We've studied mathematics, we study the words, we know English, we know cup. 2 cups on, we know what on means, and my table. So we can all go, because we go quickly, immediately, we can go, yep, you're right, Robina. You would agree, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you, Sharon? Did you listen to that? Or you got distracted?
Got distracted.
I know you did. This is a good opportunity to focus your mind. Come on, listen. Okay. We establish there are 2 cups on my table. Do you agree, Sharon? Relatively, conventionally, it's no argument, no fantasy, no drama here. There are 2 cups on my table. Now, but let's say I say to you, there are 3 cups on my table. What will you say?
You're wrong.
I'm wrong. And I'll say, what do you mean you're wrong? So what will you say to me? What will you have to prove to me? Yeah, I know, but you've got to unpack it. You've got to show me how I'm wrong. You've got to point to, you've got to give me some things to think about in order to prove to myself that I'm wrong. Wouldn't you have to do that? You wouldn't just force me to believe it. You'd have to say to me, well, remember numbers, Robina, that 2 becomes before 3. And you've got to do different things to prove to me the dependent arising of how that's a true statement. Wouldn't you agree with that? You'd give me logic to get me to see it logically, not just force me to believe it, right? Then slowly, at some point, I'll go, oh, you're absolutely right. There are 2 cups on my table. And you used logic to prove it to me, didn't you? Now, would you agree that there are 2 cups on my table is a thought?
Yes.
Right? And would you agree there are 3 cups on my table is a thought? They're both thoughts, aren't they?
Right.
One of them is a valid thought, isn't it?
Right.
And it's dependent arising. We can prove it with conventional reality. Are you listening?
Yeah.
Good. You with me?
Yes.
But the other one we can prove with dependent arising, but it's not true, isn't it? So when you've finally proven to me using logic how my thought was wrong, and then I say to you, I have the thought, what's happening? You got to go?
We have to go.
I
Goodbye,
feel
darling.
very sick. I've got to go.
Oh, sweetheart, what's wrong?
I'm not sure exactly.
Well, let's hope it's a big fat sign of good purification, but please go and take care of yourself. So when I finally see the truth, when I finally see I made a mistake, didn't I? And I've seen, and this is interesting about emptiness, I've seen the truth. I've seen the truth, haven't I? And then I say, you're right, there are 3 cups on my table. Yeah? Now, what happened to the thought? There are 2 cups on my table. Say it, what?
It's validated.
Wait, I think we got confused because you just said that there are 3 cups.
I did.
Well, the thought
Oh no,
was-
whichever was the truth. I'm sorry, no, I didn't. Whatever the truth is, you've proven that 3 cups is wrong.
Yeah,
Sorry. Yes, of course. You've proven that my thought, there are 3 cups on my table, is wrong, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Proven it to me, and I've seen the truth.
Yeah.
I've seen the truth. I've seen the truth. What happened to the thought? There are 3 cups on my table.
It goes away.
Literally gone.
Yeah.
And there's no basis for it again. And it can't arise again when you've really seen the truth. It's literally disappeared into literal space. There's not an atom of that negative thought left, is there? That proves that you can rid the mind of lies. It proves you can rid the mind of thoughts that aren't valid. By seeing the truth. By arguing and seeing the truth. Are you with me, people? And that's what happens when you're enlightened. You finally rid the mind of all thoughts that are no longer in sync with reality, and you're only left with the ones that are in sync with reality. This is the logic of it. Are you hearing me, people?
Yes.
So just be patient. It takes a lot more time to rid the mind of the lies that deep, but the same logic applies. You can't skirt around it. You can't wait for a vision. You can't wait for, 2 cups or 3 cups. I don't know. You have to use your brain and think it through and argue with it. Are you with me? The trouble is, the thought I exist inherently, which is the deepest lie of all, the most pervasive, the most instinctive, labelled maripa, labelled ego grasping, is a lie that we've had since beginning of time. It's so primordial that it's not even possible for us to even think of it as a thought, but it's absolutely instinctive, and that's what it's saying. So that's why you've got to have concentration, you've got to get the mind to the subtle level, and you've got to be able to deconstruct it in a very sophisticated way at the subtle level to finally see how it isn't true. That's what insight into emptiness means. You see, people? So what insight into emptiness means in relation to using this as the analogy here, this is the process of what happens. I have a belief, a wrong belief. There are 3 cups on my table. Just like I have the belief that I'm self-existent. You with me? Okay, so you can't, like I said, you just can't force me to believe the truth. It's not enough. I'll be still wavering. If I'm still, oh, well, all right, I believe there's 2, I believe there's 2. And this is why belief is not enough. It's just fear. Oh, yeah, all right, there's 2. And then 4 people come along and say to me, you're wrong, Robina. I'll waver. I won't have any basis for thinking that thought. That's why belief is not enough. You with me? So you've got to give me the logical basis. You've got to give me the dependent arisings of the kind of thinking I have to do using dependent arising, using conventional reality to help me slowly, first, listen to this, to see my mistake. So this is where emptiness comes in now. And this is, again, let's do this business. We did it during the week or the week before, whatever. How many weeks I've been here, I can't remember. Okay, so let's look at, now this is emptiness we're going into now. There are 2 cups on my table, okay, but I don't see it, I see 3. Okay, now in reality now, would you agree there are 2 cups on my table?
Yes.
In reality now, do you agree on, listen to this, remember we've done this before, on my table there do exist 2 cups. Yeah? It's another way to say, one way to say it. Listen to this, on my table there does exist the absence of 3 cups.
Yes.
You agree, don't you?
Yes.
And why do you say that to me? Because I believe there are 3. So I've got this ridiculous idea there are 3, and the first step is you want me to see the absence of those 3. You want me to see emptiness. Emptiness equals the absence of something. Are you with me, people? This is when we get our head around this concept, emptiness is not hard to get your head around. It's only because we're confused about this absence business. What Buddha wants me to do first is see the absence of my fantasy. So I've got to see the absence of 3 cups. Like remember the keys business? You think your keys are in the drawer, you believe your keys are in the drawer, you're running late, you open the drawer, oh my God! What you see is the absence of keys. So the absence of something is so unbelievably important to understand. This is beneath all the teachings on emptiness. To understand how there can be existing a thing called an absence of something. Not just there aren't any keys there. It's you turn it around into a positive noun. You get my point? Are you listening? You're being distracted again. You were. What did I just say?
Talking about the absence of...
Oh, but not bad, that's all right. Grab his last thought, quickly answered. Okay, so the process is like this. Because I believe there are 3, I'm seeing 3, I think there are 3, I'm convinced I'm right, and I'm having a mental breakdown because you're telling me I'm wrong. But I'm brave enough to look into it, I get all the dependent arisings, I think it through, and then my first realization is, oh my God, the absence of 3. That's what I'll see first. And then what will I see after that? 2. I'll see the truth. That's what they say, is once you realize the absence of the I, you then see the relative reality of the subtle dependent arising of the interdependent I. That's what you finally see, merely labelled I. You've got to see the emptiness first, the absence of the fantasy, the absence of the fantasy, the absence of the fantasy. That's what it means when it says see emptiness. It's not some abstract big thing in the sky. Like I say, if I went to that drawer, sticking my nose into your drawer, and I'd open it, I'd just go, oh, what a boring old drawer, nothing in there. That's not the meaning of emptiness. Emptiness is the absence of something so specific that you believe for eons in. And it's like the most primordial, mind-changing, universe-changing shift that arises in your mind when you finally see it. And from that moment, you begin to cut the root of samsara. From that second. And all the other lies are based on that lie. In other words, ego grasping, this state of mind called ignorance, believes in intrinsic, self-existent, findable, pointable, real, in and of itself, meanness. Absolute certainty. And then on the basis of this, there's this massive grasping and attachment to get what that I wants. Then the anger and panic when it doesn't. Then the jealousy and the other variations. They're all in this hierarchy of the neuroses. So we have to unpack them slowly, slowly. Start with getting rid of anger, then we get rid of attachment, then you get rid of ignorance, you know. You can't go to the root first, it's too much. You're going to attack them best we can. Before we even begin to attack the delusions, we start controlling our body and speech, the servants of the delusions. Control them first. It's very logical. And then, of course, all of this leads us to be able to then get to Tantra, the most sophisticated, outrageous level of practice, and this is now the most interesting level of attachment, to understand this one. It's only when we understand this one that you're qualified to be able to use it. Okay, it's like this. Because of the past karma of desire and attachment over eons, and we've created this physical universe, we've created these human bodies in this physical world out there, and the objects of attachment, okay? And so the default mode, as far as we're concerned, is we've got to get those objects because that'll make me happy. Now, on a relative level, it's true. There's a chocolate cake. My eyes see shape and colour. It triggers my mental consciousness. I see chocolate cake, I see delicious chocolate cake, I have a memory of having chocolate cake. You know, it's all stored away in my mental consciousness. And then, of course, attachment to it comes and takes over the whole show and then makes it look divine, dazzling, delicious. And then, of course, I'm just aching to get my hands on the cake into the mouth, because that's the hole the cake goes in, not that hole, not other holes, that hole, with me. And then all elaborations of attachment. The bare bones function of attachment, the energetic level of attachment is dissatisfaction, which is based upon ego grasping. I'm aching, I'm feeling empty and bereft, and what does it will make me happy? And I go, oh wow, cake. So then your eyes see the shape and colour, triggers the mental consciousness, the big drama written, the big dramatic story of attachment that embellishes its deliciousness. Then, of course, the hand wants to go desperately out because there's another lie, all these layers of lies there now. The lie that when I get it, I'll get happy. Believing utterly. So that's what causes me to get the cake and put it in, and then it causes this massive anticipation, doesn't it? Even as you're eating it, you're getting all excited and believing, wow. And then even as you're eating it, you're so attached to it, already you're anticipating the next mouthful before even this one's finished. Look at a little kid. You know, grasping with one hand, wanting the other piece with the other hand. And then bursting into tears because someone else takes it. We're like that now, but we're a bit more adult about it, you know? It's gone mad. Attachment's going mad. Elaboration after elaboration. Bare bones is dissatisfaction. Then it's a hankering. Then it exaggerates. Then it anticipates. Then it's the craving, the neediness, the believing utterly, the frantic, wanting, desperate to get that happiness. You put it in the mouth and it doesn't come. You want another one, it'll come now. No, it doesn't come until eventually you want to vomit and it looks disgusting and then you stop eating chocolate cake. So attachment turns into aversion. Okay, so all the stories there is what I'm getting at. Now there's an interesting point about this. Think about it. If you finally have given up attachment, even to some extent, meaning you've given up the lies, the fantasies about the cake, you start to see cake more realistically. You with me, people? That means your mind is much calmer. But look at this. It is a fact that when cake meets tongue, it triggers an experience, doesn't it? It's a fact. That's a fact. Now, so if you're little greedy, desperate, frantic junkie shoving the cake until you vomit, that's the obvious example of gross attachment, isn't it? So then, and we all know the more you do that, the less happy you get. There's no pleasure at all. The more grasping you are, the less you destroy any pleasure whatsoever. But look at if you're a bit more refined person and you eat slowly and you actually you enjoy it more. You enjoy it. There's more pleasure actually. Because you're not buying into so much the lie that it's the total cause of all your happiness. But you're more able to enjoy it and savour it, and you can even stop eating before you're stuffed. Do you understand what I'm saying? So actually, we can see the experience of pleasure, which is triggered by cake meeting tongue, increases as you get rid of the grasping. You with me? So but imagine the point you get to when you're a great tantric yogi and you've given up attachment, you realise emptiness. You've still got a tongue. You've still got a body. Your tongue doesn't fall out of your mouth when you give up attachment. Do you see what I'm saying? You've still got this body. And look at the pleasure it triggers. That pleasure is real in terms of this dependent arising and having a human body. You with me? So in Tantra, because you no longer are buying into the nonsense of the lie, you really are no longer buying into the nonsense of the lie. You know the cake doesn't make you happy. You know it's not more delicious than it really is. You know it has no inherent nature. You know this deeply. But you have a body. You have a body. So you put the cake in and you get incredible bliss. Because you're the boss now. So that is why you can use attachment in Tantra. You see, strictly speaking, as Curtis Rinpoche said to me in a discussion, I had some questions, and he said, strictly speaking, you don't utilise attachment on the path. You utilise the bliss, the attachment, the contact with an attachment object triggers in your mind. And the person who's qualified to utilise that bliss is the one who's given up attachment. Are you with me? So it's a really very clear point. And we can see this in our own relative reality. The less grasping, the more joy. Even just your ordinary toast, nice. You're not going to shove it in the mouth like an animal. And when you do that, as Lama Yeshe says, the stronger attachment is, you become duller and duller and duller. You become like an animal. You're just shoving it in mindlessly. When you really shove the food in, did I even have that toast? You don't even remember. Because you're just like you like it with respect to animals, So the less grasping, the more awareness, the more clarity, the more lightness, the more joy. And that's the essence of the approach in Tantra. But of course, when you've got bucket loads of attachment, you can't hear that. Because all you want is, you're a junkie for the bliss. So the only way you can hear this properly is by separating attachment from the body, seeing it as a conceptual state of mind, how it's a lie. So then you can see how you can be able to have contact with an attachment object, as Lama Yeshe puts it, without the mind going berserk. This is the point. Do you understand? So how can you possibly understand this if you haven't understood it? This is in high school, folks. This is high school we're talking here, about how the mind works. You know, do you understand my point? Okay. But this is Hinayana teaching, not even Mahayana. So you've got to go one step at a time. That's it, that's the essence of Tantra. And why you want to utilize the bliss is because it has been found from experience of the great yogis that when the mind is unencumbered by the junk, combined with focus, that's the power of the mind to quickly go to, the bliss enables the mind to go to a very subtle level, very quickly, very clearly. And at that level of the microscope of your mind, that's what can see truth. You with me, people? It's a technical point. Okay. So the other whole, you know, what time do I got to get out of here? I've got to get to New York today. What time is it? I'm coming back tomorrow.
5 o'clock.
What time have I been there for? Just so I remember. What time do you have to be
You
out
said we
here?
were leaving here about 1, we're
1:30.
finishing at 1:30, yeah.
Oh, we've got hours time. Yeah, okay. So any questions about what this we're discussing? We'll go to the next point. Yeah.
Very small question.
You go.
You gotta have the microphone.
Yeah, it's good for the people.
Just a clarification of the term technical. When you use the word technical, do you mean subtler and subtler distinctions?
No, I think I just mean by technical as opposed to romantic, wow, far out, spiritual, cosmic. Like learning your facts and figures,
Yeah.
gets the nuts and bolts clear. That's what I meant by that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I ask you another question?
Where are you? Yes.
Yes. So all your discussion about the recognizing the cup, and then you create these old stories.
Sorry.
Create these old stories about the cup, that you like it or you don't like it.
Yes,
or
that's right.
the feelings. I was trying to look at it in terms of 5 skandhas, the form, feelings,
Yes.
and then there's perceptions and impulses.
Yes,
and
breaking all
consciousness.
down to the component parts.
Right.
Yes.
So I think we discussed about form and feelings part, but rest of 3, can you elaborate more on that part?
You mean in the 5 aggregates? You want to go into those? You want to discuss them?
Yeah, is that possible or is it too long? Or
We could. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
basically the 5 aggregates is Buddha's way of breaking up a person into 5 component parts, mainly based upon the understanding of how attachment works. So it's basically 2 phenomena. We're really made up of 2, mind and body. Then, okay, there's actually 3. Mind and body, and then all the other bits that are neither mind nor body. So a bit that would be neither mind nor body would be, they say, a karmic imprint. It's not neither mind nor body. Karmic imprints are on the mind, but it's a 3rd category of impermanent phenomena that they talk about. There's mind, there's form, there's mind, and then there's non-associated impermanent phenomena that is neither mind nor body. So those 3. So then, but Buddha takes 2 more of the 51 states of mind, and he points those out as important because they're important in relation to attachment, and that's feelings and discrimination. So you've got form, which from actually the 5 aggregates can be a way of describing the entire universe. The entire impermanent universe is divided for any individual person, their experience. All of everything that they experience is divided into these 5, and that includes all other forms as well. But personally, our own personal 5 aggregates, there's my body, and then there's my mind. And then the 3rd category, the non-associated, the ones that are neither body nor mind. But so it's form, consciousness, and non-associated. But he points out 2 of these mental factors called feeling and discrimination because of the crucial role they play in attachment and then indeed in how to get rid of attachment. Do you see? So feeling is this pleasure, pain, and indifference, and then discrimination is this crucial other of the 5 always present mental states that can distinguish between one and another. And this is vital in order to understand our mind and do this job we're trying to do here. If we don't have decent discrimination, which is an intelligence that can distinguish between this and that, this is a crucial state of mind that enables us to get enlightened, you know. And then the rest are just the others, that's all. Does that make sense?
Okay, so in this case, the discrimination part is not necessarily a negative state of mind.
No,
It's
no, hang on a minute, what do you mean necessarily? What do you mean by that word, necessarily a negative? Who says it's negative at all?
Right, but you recognize a form and then you create these feelings, the stories about what I
No,
like
it's
this
not
form.
how, it's not what a feeling is.
Okay.
No. Feeling is a term referring to either a pleasant state of mind, a pleasant feeling, an unpleasant feeling, or a neutral feeling. It's not a qualitative thing like we talk about feelings. It's not like that. A pleasant feeling based upon the body and the mind together is the fruit of a virtuous action in the past. An unpleasant feeling is the fruit of a non-virtuous action in the past. So all moments of suffering are called unpleasant feelings. All moments of happiness are called pleasant feelings. There's three of these only: pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then discrimination is a type of wisdom in us that is capable of deciding that's a book and that's a table. That's all. It's neither good nor bad state of mind. It's a neutral state of mind. It's neither virtuous nor non-virtuous. But we need it desperately in this job of developing our minds. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming to visit us.
Okay.
I have a question.
Into the mic, sweetheart. It doesn't seem like it's on.
Sorry.
It doesn't seem like it's on.
It's
It is
on.
on.
It is,
It's
okay.
on. It's on. I have a question about how to develop wisdom and discrimination. I really like chocolate. I love chocolate so much. I feel like it's a missing food group.
Uh-huh.
My sister doesn't like chocolate at all. She's never liked it.
Sure.
And as we've gotten older, we've gotten interested in taking care of our health. And she went to the doctor, and the doctor said, no, you shouldn't eat chocolate. I just did a lab test for you. You shouldn't eat it.
Uh-huh.
And I've kind of followed in her footsteps and had a lab test. And my lab test said, oh, you eat as much chocolate as you like. It's really good for you.
Okay.
So my idea when I see chocolate is I love chocolate. Unfortunately, when I see tea, I still am thinking, oh, I really love tea. But my lab test came back and said, no, you
Sure.
really shouldn't be having tea.
Right.
So how do you develop that discrimination and that wisdom to know the difference between those, almost the difference between delusion and truth?
I don't follow you at all. So
Because
I'm missing something here.
it's true that it's fine for me to eat
Yeah, but
chocolate,
according to a
but it's
certain
not
viewpoint, it's
for-
true. But what's that got to do with anything? It's got nothing to do with anything we're discussing here. We're talking about attachment here. So I understand your point, and that's good.
But
you
my
can't.
my attachment is guiding me.
But it's not
in a
necessarily
way,
related
it's like,
to truth, though.
But I'm like kind of attached to the tea. Because I think I like tea, but really it's not.
So what's the
right
question
idea
then in
either.
relation to that? So okay,
So how
so
do you
stop for a
learn the
second.
difference?
Okay, you've got tea. You have an object called tea, and you have an object called chocolate.
Yeah.
It happens to be, according to one medical view, that tea isn't good for you, but chocolate is.
Yeah.
That's one point.
Yeah.
But that's in a way not the discussion we're getting is here. It's just a hassle for you because you'd rather have tea as well. So the point here is to see how attachment, which is an exaggerating state of mind, such that when you see tea it looks more delicious than it really is, and it looks to you like if you get it you'll get happy, and so then when not having it causes you suffering and pain. That's what we're looking at here. That's the point. Not to be able to have the discrimination to know what foods are good for you or not good for you. Don't worry about that. It's attachment's the problem.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? No, it's not answering your question.
I guess I do see what you're saying, but I also think that in a way our view or our attachment of the object, like seeing that the cup is beautiful, is almost in a way guiding us toward what.
Oh, okay, so this
towards
boy
what
yesterday,
is
this
true,
boy yesterday,
yeah.
this boy yesterday.
Exactly.
Why did he kill those people?
Because he thought that. Like my idea of the tea, I think that, so I'm drinking the tea.
So what
But-
are you saying then? What's the point? I'm a bit confused.
But it's like my idea of that the tea is so wonderful is going to make me happy is wrong because it really gives me a stomachache.
But that's not the reason.
But I'm
that's not the reason
still
attachment.
drinking it because I have this idea that I like it so much.
So what's your point?
So how do you know the difference between that? How do you learn wisdom so that you're not following your attachment? because I'm attached to the tea. That's, I don't know.
So your question is?
How do you learn the wisdom to know the difference between what's attachment and what's not?
Well, that's what being a Buddhist means. Learning to know what delusions are and how they lie. You learn, okay, so one of the signs, okay, let's say you and I like chocolate cake. Like chocolate cake. That's cool. To like something is fine. You know, Tibetans like yak cheese. It's their habit. Australians like Vegemite. So you and I decide we like chocolate cake. And we just say, oh, let's go and have some chocolate cake. Okay? So what happens, let's see what happens when the carrot cake comes instead. Okay? Now this is the point now. This is going to answer your question. You might go, oh, that's cool. I can handle carrot cake, and you proceed to enjoy it. I might go, hey, excuse me, I ordered chocolate cake. I get all upset. So the point there is, my response of anger was because my attachment was running the show, and then it got upset when it didn't get what it wanted. But you are able to change your mind right there. That proves you didn't have much attachment. That's the point of attachment. The trouble is we don't know it's suffering until it doesn't get what it wants. The reason Buddha says to give it up is because it causes you to grasp, to exaggerate, to manipulate, and then to only get unhappy because it can never ever bring satisfaction. Do you see the point? So we've got to look into the mind. So one of the indicators of attachment is kind of eager, overexcited, or oh yeah, I've got to have it, kind of thinking about it when it's not there, manipulating to get it, and then waiting for all the anticipation, and then the disappointment, you get stuffed. So we've got to know our minds well. We've got to look into your mind and see beyond the feelings to observe that anxiety and that worry and that neediness and that grasping. Then, of course, 1,000 times a day, your attachment is working, but we don't notice it because it's so subtle. We only notice it when it doesn't get what it wants, and that's the moment to catch it and to learn about it. Are we communicating now?
Yeah,
Good.
thank you.
Good. Because the fact is, chocolate might be good for your body, but honey, attachment to chocolate cake is not good for your mind. So in either case, you've got to give up attachment to tea and chocolate. For your sake. For the mind's sake. Do you see, the doctor's only worrying about your body.
Yeah.
Well, in this case anyway. Do you see my point?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you'll really enjoy the chocolate cake. Yes. Yes. Oh, yeah, go. Oh, sorry, yes, we don't first. Sorry, he's got it. Let's do him first.
Oh.
Then we'll pass it over. Yes.
Yeah, we were talking outside a little bit about diet,
Who?
outside
Diet?
here, about diet and vegetarianism and necessary, not necessary, for the Buddhist path. And I was wondering if you could give us some clarification on that.
Well, one Lama said, yeah, I think eating meat will lessen your compassion. If I look into my mind, I'm very attached to meat, so I don't eat it all the time, sometimes. But I can really see, and it's just an animal action, it's an animal karma. It's from animal life, bringing this tendency to crave blood and the meat, So in one sense, I can see forget the animal that's killed, but for one's own sake, I can see it's really clear that it would be counteracting compassion. 3 of my sisters are vegetarian. They're not even religious. They're not even Buddhist. They don't even like Buddhism. They stop eating meat because of compassion for animals. So okay, maybe stop eating meat doesn't help any animals because there's going to be an awful lot of animals continue to get killed. But for their mind, it's very powerful. So for one's own practice, it seems like an excellent thing, especially if you're attached to it. If you're not attached to it, don't worry too much, I would suggest. Because the tipping point for the number of people to stop eating cows before they stop killing cows, I don't think it's going to be a while. Because they're still going to get cows who have the karma to die, and there'll still be people who've got the karma to kill cows. They'll end up with a glut of cows, like they did in Maine, big glut of lobsters recently. So there's been millions of dollars on marketing to sell more lobsters, because suddenly a pile more lobsters turned up. So the poor fishermen now are unhappy because the price went down. So even stopping eating lobsters won't help, because sentient beings are going to keep being born as lobsters, baby. So we've got 2 reasons. One is for the sake of others, which is a great motivation, which is mainly a benefit to you for your practice. So it depends on the person, the time, the situation. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And of course the situation, if there's a lobster alive in that pot, I'd like that lobster, please. Clearly don't eat it, even if you're not attached to meat, because you're directly causing the suffering in one animal right there, which you could save. There's many things to think about. Do you understand?
Yes.
Because the fact is, even if you do give up eating meat and being a vegan, just living, just existing, just breathing, just driving, you're killing countless sentient beings. The Buddha would say suffering is we're living in suffering. This realm is in the nature of suffering. Just existing, you can't avoid harming others. So all we can do is try to do whatever we can to avoid harming others. The best we can do is that. Do you see?
Yes.
Okay. So the other whole, oh yeah, okay, go. Sure.
I don't know if this question should be answered now, and tell me if it's just
No,
beyond
sure.
what you're teaching because you want to do certain things
Sure.
till 1:30. But a lot of lineages and a lot of schools of Buddhism do not teach, or some don't teach tantric
That's
teachings.
right.
It's very secret. So how do you call these tantric teachings? Because these seem to be basic to the sutras or to the teachings I've had over the past few years.
Well, all tantric teachings are related to the sutras because they're the most advanced. It's like if you study postgraduate music, it means you've studied junior school music, isn't it?
But why are they saying that you can't go on to tantric? Because I've been learning a lot of what you're saying.
But who says
and yet
you
they
can't?
say there's more and you can't go into these teachings.
You have to give me your sources here. I don't quite, it's a bit of a broad.
Teachers in
What are they saying to you?
the
But you-
teachers in my lineage just
Say
saying that there
what?
are more advanced teachings and you
There
can't
are.
go to them until, but you can't hear them even. I mean, I don't know if you can, they
Until you're
won't
qualified.
let you hear them.
Until you're qualified, right.
Okay.
Well, you better get qualified. I mean, there have to be levels at which you're qualified, isn't it?
Okay, so you are teaching tantric, but at a certain level.
I'm teaching it from the very most basic level, but this is why I think I'm taking my call here from Lama Yeshe, my Lama, who from the beginning would bring Tantra down to this basic, I mean it's hardly basic, but talk about it at this level in order for us to understand even intellectually the logic of it, the psychology of it, the philosophy of it, which I think is very reasonable. And it sort of suits us, our Western minds, which as Lama Yeshe says, are very tricky, intellectual, conceptual, technical minds. I'm not trying to be insulting, we're not like simple peasants. I'm not trying to be rude here now, insulting, you know. We've got this highly developed, intellectual, sophisticated mind, and he says this suits the Western mind. And this is how I'm not saying I can do it like Lama Yeshe, but I'm trying to do it in a grounded way. Also, for me, it's really important that we hear how it's all finally psychological. You know. So of course there are levels. You've got to go level. You can't just enter postgraduate without having been to university. You can't leap from junior school to that. It's the same here. So it's not as if you just can't have it in secret, close the door. You've got to qualify each step of the way, and then indeed we can hear the most secret teachings, and they'll give us all the commentaries, you know. I mean, for example, we can't do certain practices unless you've received the initiation. You can't do a certain other practice unless you've done the retreat. You can't do that if you haven't done that. It's very reasonably graded, you know. So just keep moving, and you'll become qualified, is the point, I think.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Does that make
very
sense?
Clear, yeah.
Yeah.
When you were talking about getting rid of thoughts and going back, like
Yes.
I used to listen to Thich Nhat Hanh, and like, Bija, is that the first seed, the bad seed? Like you
I don't know that word.
but you have to take away the thoughts layer by layer all the way to the beginning of your ancient primordial existence.
There you go, that sounds a nice way to put it, yeah, I like that. And this means with concentration, going deeper and deeper into the very thoughts themselves, unpacking it layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. Because one way of putting this is the way they talk about it, the hierarchy of these negative states. The root delusion, the one that's the beneath them all, is this ego grasping, this instinctive belief in the sense of inherent me. And it's literally also a conceptual state of mind, but primordially practiced for eons now, where it's completely instinctive. It's impossible to even see it as a thought, and it's not even a state of mind that we even posit as existing in our materialist world. It's so subtle, so primordial, it's the biggest lie of all. Then on the basis of this, there's the grasping at getting what that I want. So on the basis of this is anger when it doesn't get what it wants. There's this, they are a hierarchy, very clearly layered, you know. So the point is, if we say just one sentence like, you know, that's my cup, leave it alone. It sounds like a reasonable statement. We could spend a long time unpacking and deconstructing every single word there and every assumption under every word to get down to to dissect it in relation to using Buddhist psychology. So if you were a scientist, you use your microscope to look at this and the atoms and the that and the handle, would be very precise. We've got to do that level of being our own therapist, to look at the assumption. What do you mean by I? What's that based upon? That's my cup. What's my mean? What's cup mean? We could write pages. You could do months of meditation on just that sentence. Because each of those is a thought, based upon a previous thought, based upon another assumption, which uncovers this assumption, which gets down to the bare bones of the fundamental assumption of ignorance. So it's quite sophisticated in that sense. And we can't possibly do it until we've learned Buddhist psychology, because that's the model we're using here. Everything we say, you know, especially when it's an attachment thought or an angry thought, it's all, we can unpack all that and understand exactly every word, exactly, and each thought is based on that assumption. You peel away that assumption, that's based upon that assumption. You peel away that assumption, it's based upon that assumption. It's very clear, very structured, whereas we just see it all as true. A person says, oh, I can't stand people. Just a simple statement, a throw off, like you do it in conversation at the bar. You have to go into that in depth. You go to therapy for weeks to try and unpack that sentence. What's behind that? What does he mean by I can't stand? What's in his mind? What is anger? Where does it come from? It's related to attachment. What is attachment? Attachment comes from ignorance. What is ignorance? What does that assume? And there's all the teachings on emptiness. Everything, but it's packed solid. As the Buddha says, you know, we're so habitual in all these misconceptions now. We just state, and as Lama Zopa says, it's so ingrained in us that we don't even think our mind plays any role at all. We think it's self-existently that way. So it's actually incredible hard work to get into the mind like this. To even get to the point where we think our mind plays a role is already so amazing, so mature, so adult, unbelievable. Do you see?
Thank you.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So feeding off of that thought with regards to ego, ego grasping and the concept of I'm thinking
It's
of
good.
it.
It's relative language. We have to use
Yeah,
it.
yeah. If I've lived, and I'm sure I have, and numerous lives.
Buddha would say that.
Yeah, yeah. Then what makes me think I can believe in this particular version here? Because this version.
Sorry, stop right there.
Yeah.
Stop right there. Already the assumptions are so overwhelming, I'm almost collapsing.
Do you want another cup of coffee?
What is this? What makes me think that I can believe? What's all this about? Please unpack these words. What are you saying?
Okay, I'm probably not saying it as eloquently.
Indeed not. Say it again. Pretend you're a Buddhist and say it like a Buddhist.
Okay, boy. I've lived a number of lives.
Your mind is beginningless. Put it this
Yes,
way.
my mind is beginningless.
And right at this moment in time, you are this particular person based upon this particular set of experiences expressing these particular things. Then, what's the question?
How can I believe in this?
Sorry, believe? What's this coming from? Who believe what? What are you talking about here? I'm quite serious now.
I know.
Well, then please use another word. Let's do what I said before. Let's unpack that statement now. Let's analyse. So first of all, what do you mean, how can I?
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
Now, okay, let's be dependent arising. Be precise. I say, I'm holding a cup. Which part of me is holding a cup?
Your hand.
Thank you. Which part of my hand is holding a cup?
Fingers.
Thank you. Now, which part of you is doing something here?
My mind.
Thank you. Which part of your mind?
The broken part.
No, never mind. And then what's this word belief? What's this word belief? Believe
A
in what?
set of assumptions based upon.
You don't have to believe.
untruths.
Excuse me. You don't believe in a set of assumptions. You take them on board as a set of assumptions.
Okay.
You hypothesize the possibility.
Okay.
You can't believe in it yet. You're not there yet. Belief comes way later. Belief is part of it, but not yet. You immediately hypothesize the possibility.
Okay, belief is later.
Then what do? You have to then test it out and start looking. You're not believing it. Don't swallow it whole yet. It's way too soon.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't.
Well, you don't say the word believe.
Okay, I wasn't.
So then it's up to you to decide whether you take something on board as a hypothesis. It's your choice, sweetheart. Okay, you're saying, how do I know it's true? That's what you're asking, isn't it? You're asking, how do I know it's true? You're saying that. You just said, how can I believe?
Okay.
You meant that. Okay, let me ask you. You learn piano, let's say.
Yeah.
Mummy, how do I know if I'm playing it right, is what you're asking. How do I know this is right, is what you're asking. What would I say to you, your mummy teacher? What would I say to you? Okay, forget that. How would you know if you're playing it right? You see, it's a dependent arising. Right is a dependent arising. How do I know what's right when I play the piano? What's it based upon? What do you judge it according to?
Convention?
Which convention is it called in terms of music?
Bach.
The laws of
The
music
laws of
according to
music,
Bach.
yeah.
So you're playing Bach.
Mm.
So you have a set of rules there that Bach has laid out, haven't you?
Right.
So, Mummy, how do I know if I'm playing it right? Well, go back to the basics, dear, and check your source. And see if Bach says do this and do this and do this. You see, what's right is not an absolute, which is what your question assumed.
Mm.
It's not set in stone right. It's a dependent arising right. And that's based upon the laws that Bach would put. Here we're taking Buddha's observation as our basis. So how do I know if I've got wisdom? Well, check up what Buddha says and check the boxes. And then you're slowly practicing. You're going to prove yourself that it's right. Because if Buddha is right, your mind will see it and then you will know it is right. So one step at a time, please.
Okay.
There's no other way. There's no other choice. There's no shortcut.
Not looking for a
No,
shortcut.
I know,
looking for
but
the
I'm
right way,
saying
yeah.
you take it as a hypothesis. That doesn't mean believe yet.
Okay.
Listen to this.
Yeah.
They talk about this nice process we go through, starting with wrong view to enlightened. So wrong view means you heard about a place called Melbourne. You've lived in little Boston, you've never been out of Boston, you've never been out of this county, and you believe this mind is really small. You hear this bizarre place called Melbourne that's 12,000 miles away. You go, don't be ridiculous. So it's called wrong view. And then you start hearing people keep popping up about Melbourne. You start going, oh God, maybe there's Melbourne. Nah, come on. That's called doubt tending towards the wrong view because you start to look into it. You're getting outside your little box. You're looking into the possibility that it could exist. You're brave enough to do that. Then you keep hearing about Melbourne, and you keep hearing more people talk about it, and then you gradually think, well, God, maybe it's possible. Maybe it is possible, you know. Then you tend to doubt tending towards the right view. Then you keep looking into it. You're getting more excited now. You get more, and you keep checking up your basis. You do more. You're doing more research. You're taking it as a hypothesis now. You're doing more research. You keep coming up with this possibility, and you even eventually get what they call right belief. You believe Melbourne exists. But not based because you think you like the sound of it, which is how we think of belief, but on your logical own investigation. And you keep, it's not enough yet, but you keep checking, you keep doing your research, and pennies keep falling, and little pieces of the puzzle keep falling into place based upon your hard work. And eventually you have what they call correct inference. Inferential knowledge. You know so well now, logically, knowing geography, aeroplanes, time, the map, this, not just people's experience, but your own research, intellectually, you're so confident you could even tell someone else how to get there. And then eventually, you get the direct experience of knowing. Just like this, one step at a time. But the basic way to say it is that you're taking it as you, I think I just can't stress that enough. It's so comfortable. Not believe in it. It's cheap. It's frantic. I believe there are 3 cups there. No, I believe there are 2. No, I'm not sure. You take it as a possibility, so you're very spacious about it, and you're working with it. You're working with it. With the preparedness to be wrong. As the Dalai Lama says, Buddha might be wrong, in which case when you discover that he's wrong, you say, see you later, mate. Bye-bye. Nice knowing you. And that puts us in the center of responsibility. That's where just blind faith is not enough. Or like lemmings, we'll just believe the biggest story, you know?
Well, that's the one other point I came up with, that the amount of responsibility that we, each of us has.
That's right.
It's immense.
That's right.
It's immense, but
It's
it's
just pulled it to the front.
powerful, but
It
in
is.
a good way.
That's right, because then you'll be like a rock. When you know the truth, it doesn't matter. You'll be
Yeah.
comfortable. And you won't be fanatic about it, you won't be freaking out about it, you won't be fearful, you'll be relaxed.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Yes.
I find that I have certain triggers that occur, and then I go down the rat hole.
Yes, sounds like the rest of us.
And yes, I'm sure. So is this process where you unpack that experience, the way to counter those and get strength so that next time?
Absolutely, it's one very powerful way to do it. Each of us has got different types of minds, and some of us would find this a bit dry, but in the end we've all got to do all these bits, but know which practices are right for us, you know? We've got to be able to really, because I think when we remember, which is so interesting, they don't state it too much in Buddhist psychology, but it's really important for us to hear it, is that in their nature, all negative states of mind are based in fear. They are in the nature of fear. So fear means we can't bear to look at it. So we have to have the courage to go against that fear and open the door and look into it. And that's what alleviates fear. Familiarity with it, no matter how bad it is what calms the fear. It's when we deny it, it's like a nightmare. So as much as we can, we need to agree to the level of our own capability, confront that thing, analyze it, look at it, get past the fear, and then that calms the fear. And that's how we can change. Makes sense?
Thank you.
So the other aspect of tantric practice, which is again so helpful to, what happened to that lady? She's gone. Where are you?
She'll be.
Oh, you're there, darling. Okay, good. What's your name?
Elizabeth?
Elizabeth, good. Okay, so this other aspect that is so helpful to understand psychologically, that Lama Yeshe, I think I told you last night, really helped to try to bring this to the forefront of our minds, you know, from the time he first met us. First of all, as he said, we Westerners, highly educated, you know, very sophisticated, again, I keep saying the word technical, brilliant. Okay, there's two more parts. Two more pieces I want to say about to help understanding Tantra. The first part, forget that second. Cancel. New sentence. The second, the other aspect of attachment that I find is incredibly helpful to understand, which is based upon this understanding of how the delusions all embellish something. They exaggerate something. Attachment exaggerates, embellishes the deliciousness. Aversion or anger embellishes the ugliness. Okay, so this embellishing is the point I want to get to. So as Lama Yeshe pointed out, we are in a desire realm, and we are sort of at the sophisticated top end of the desire realm, where we have immense amount of objects. We can get anything we want just by clicking our fingers just about it, in comparison with poor little people in some countries, you know, unbelievable. Which is the result of virtue, the result of immense generosity in the past lives, that we are able to get what we want. Unbelievable. We're so fortunate. We have nice houses, nice roads, nice this, good. You just blink, you go here, you get that sandwich, this one, you know, that one. You can get what you want so easily. This is the fruit of generosity. So then we have, unfortunately, because we have attachment, then we just destroy it all, you know, by grasping at it like vampires, and it leads us to hell. But the thing is, to try and understand this embellishing thing, then we'll get to see how, and this is related also to this earlier explanation of how when the yogi has given up the craving and the manipulating and the expecting and the vampire, still they've got a tongue, still they have a body, so they can then see they can utilize that bliss which is triggered by contact with an attachment object without their mind going berserk, as Lama Yeshe puts it. So this embellishing is the interesting point. So if you look, so creativity. Okay, we think of creativity, and I think in our culture, our materialist world, that's the god. That's the peak. Look, you know, like Picasso paintings will go for $50 million, you know. It's the peak. As far as we're concerned, the top dog is art, creativity, isn't it? You don't sort of, you know, buy a computer for $50 million, you know, made by Mr. Apple, but you'll buy a Picasso painting because it's called creativity. So creativity, analyze what that is. Look at what Picasso did. He saw a flower, a shape called a flower, and then his what we would call creativity, which is actually the function of attachment conceptually, to take that and completely embellish it and see something different and dramatize it. Look at brilliant musicians. I think of Bach, you know. He churned out like 50 pieces a month to keep his 22 kids in the local church, you know. He just churned out this endless variations of simple sound. So that's That's talented ability to embellish a bare bones sound. He can create the most astonishing, remarkably, technically brilliant sounds. Are you sort of seeing what I'm saying? That's a function of attachment. So all in our desire realm, all our music, our art, all the arts and that are all the product of attachment. That's literally true. And because we have a technical mind, we're very intelligent. So that Bach, obviously you can say with Bach, he was super intelligent, wasn't he? Super intelligent. Another person can have attachment, be very thick and stupid, and just, be ignorant like a pig and have attachment, 20 times more attachment. But with Bach, there was this intelligence combined with attachment. So he could take sound and embellish it to an incredibly sophisticated degree. And look at our technical brilliance with computers and engineering and mathematics and architecture. We're all incredible, brilliant geniuses at attachment mind combined with intelligence. Are you seeing what I'm saying? Which is why it's so tragic. Because we don't understand this, and then because we have attachment, we are attached to that. So what do you think the karmic consequences are? I remember watching a show one time about one of those wonderful animal shows by Attenborough, that English fellow? He was exactly like that Australian guy who died, Steve somebody. But one was an Australian version and the other one was this posh English, but the same enthusiasm for the world of animals. They're all marvellous people. So this Attenborough, I'll never forget this particular show, he was waxing lyrical about this amazing ants. Over the years they've become so brilliant technically, nobody understands why they're so intelligent. They live in these 70-foot houses and they've got the basement is 22.7 degrees and the next floor is this, and the incredible technical brilliance, and they're getting more and more technically brilliant and no one knows why. Are you with me? Well, what do you think they're reborn? Clever architects and engineers. So you remember, every single thing we do and say and think leaves an impression in the mind. Everything leaves an impression in the mind. So if you can imagine a person at the level to which you study engineering, mathematics, the genius of our minds. That's intense karmic impressions, right? But you do it with attachment. You do it with attachment. You identify it as real, as you, as mine. So that attachment causes you to get born as a bloody ant. But you've got the habit of the technical. You just default mode. Now look at humans. We've got human life, but the default mode to, kill each other, torture, have sex, rape. Where do you think those habits come from? The animal realm. So intelligence comes from the human birth, and ants can have it, and dogs can have it, but it's a habit, that's all. Well, dogs usually aren't, they're pretty thick. You understand what I'm saying here? Those ants are more clever than dogs. Far more. So, but look at the rebirth. Because of attachment, you get that ant body, but you've got the habit of all that stuff. You see, I remember seeing these birds that dance for 9 hours to get a girlfriend. Well, look at the hard-working ballet dancer, Look at this one other bird builds a little house to win their partner. Where do you think all those habits come from? We call it instinct in the West, but we know where it comes from. Well, of course, it's just from habit from the past life. And that's with clever humans. And you bring that into an animal birth, so you're a clever animal. But look at us poor old humans, bringing up animal sex, eating, all the sensory activities are animal activities. We're born on a planet looking like a bunch of apes, people. We're even called animals in our science. So we've got to distinguish the habits. So we've got this technical brilliance, but it's just attachment. We've got intelligence, but look how we are misusing it. So that's why if you add bodhicitta to the mix, that's the saving grace. That's what transforms. The wish to use your intelligence, use your money, use your power, use your love, use your sex. This is really the point of the Mahayana and the Tantric. You base it in bodhicitta. Then the whole thing is transformed. Are you seeing the point here? Because it's the motivation behind what you do that determines the result. Everything you do will leave an imprint, whatever it might be. Everything any sentient being sees in their eyes, with their ears, leaves an imprint in the mind. Everything. So, but the attachment right now is what runs our show. Attachment to who I am as an architect, attachment to my being a gymnast, attachment to sex. So that attachment is what destroys us and destroys everything we do. This is why, hang on, the very first level of practice, you've got to back off and leave the thing alone. You've got to give up sex, drugs and rock and roll and go to the mountains, baby. That's the first level, the Hinayana level. You've got no choice. to control your crazy body, speech and mind, to sort out the nuts and bolts of this mess. You can't do it in the midst of it. It's too chaotic, too like a nightmare. Then you've got compassion wing, where you now so control your body, speech and mind, the renunciation, you can now want to benefit others. And then you add emptiness to this. So you've got to go gradually, you know. And then, so bodhicitta, given that we're in this ordinary samsaric realm, that's why Lama Yeshe would teach us this stuff from the beginning. He tried to get us to see there are ways of transforming this insane life of attachment. He knows 99% of us won't give it up and go to the mountains, which is the best method, the quickest method to get beyond it. So these marvellous techniques in Mahayana, in Bodhisattva path and the Tantric, if we can understand it psychologically, on the earth, the psychology and the philosophy of this stuff, the application of it in daily life, to transform insane attachment, and our money, and our power, and our sex, do it with bodhicitta. It's so meaningful. Do you understand, people?
Yes.
Okay. What's your question?
Since we're talking about attachment, I've been thinking about this the last couple of days, and again, I do not.
Darling, is it on this topic now? I don't want to go off this topic.
It is, no.
Well, I don't want to go off it.
Yeah, no.
Huh?
Regarding attachment, is it possible then to be too attached, and I mean no disrespect, but is it possible to be too
You need
attached
to think about that yourself.
to Buddhism?
No, that means you don't understand attachment.
Oh,
That's fine. That's good.
tossing it out there.
right
I
back
mean,
to you.
I'm just chewing on it.
No, I know you are. So
Yeah.
tell me what you think that would look like. How would that look? I know where your question's coming from too. I can hear it. So tell me what that looks like. How would it look in a person's daily life?
I guess if, boy, the wheels are turning.
Yes.
I guess if you're going down the wrong path and believing your delusions that they're real truths.
No. You just said, how can you be too attached to Buddhism? So how would it look in your daily life? What would a person look like if they were attached to Buddhism?
They would be practicing.
Oh, would they? I see. Attachment practice.
I haven't thought it through. It's just,
No,
maybe I should have
suggest
tossed
you
out the
think
question for a while.
Well, then I
so.
think you leave it for a while.
Okay, all
You
right.
mull over it.
Then we'll just avoid
Yeah.
the question.
Yeah, I think so. No, we won't avoid it.
Well, I meant at this moment.
We won't, because I think you've got to think it through yourself.
Yes.
And then you'll come to a very clear conclusion.
Okay.
The more you understand attachment,
Yeah.
the more you understand the answer yourself.
Okay.
You'll think it through. Any questions here? Okay, so the other aspect of Tantra, which is so marvellous, which Lama Yeshe continually brought down on the earth for us, which is crucial to apply in our daily lives, and which he could do from the very beginning, was seeing how, on the one side, we're brilliant technically, so he explained kind of the tantric teachings, this, approach, how we can use. But the other one is when we understand the way ego works, we're like infants. Basically, the more you're caught up in ego, the more like a baby you are. Completely self-pity, completely pathetic, completely not fair. It's not my fault. I didn't ask to get born. It's all their fault. It's his fault. Neurotic, depressed, anxious, jealous, and completely addicted to the poor self-pity me. Honestly, that is the way we are. That is samsara. That's the tragedy of the negative states of mind. That they are totally absorbed in self-pity me. Lama Yeshe would call ego self-pity me. It sounds cruel. So because we're that way, meaning attachment's running the show, anger runs the show, depression runs the show, which is reinforced by our materialist world that this is who you really are and it's natural. We've been taught it, we've heard it, we've thought it, we're born into it, we believe it. Everything around us reinforces it. So of course it's the view that we have. And the function of that is that self-pity and pathetic, self-absorbed, miserable, not fair, concretizing your own misery, blaming everybody else, blaming yourself, nightmare. Look at samsara, look at the world. So, he brought up, Lama came along, and what he would try to do, I remember at the beginning, I couldn't even hear him properly. I could only hear it, but I couldn't apply it. Desperately trying to get us to notice our good qualities and identify with those instead. Because that's coming from Tantra. That's actually the approach in Tantra. They say that Tantra is all about taking, they say, the end result, your Buddhahood, your perfection, visualizing it, imagining it, thinking about it, identifying with it, and bringing it right now into the present. That's how they talk about it. So if you're visualizing, doing a practice like, I thought I might lead us in a practice before we finish, just to give you a taste, I mean, many of you have got a practice. But the very essence of this visualization practices It's amazing psychology. Is you imagine enlightenment out there, let's say in the form of Tara. It's green, female body, blissful light, represents, she's got all the qualities of enlightenment. It's just a visual representation of enlightened mind. Manifesting as female, which means action, and her main energy is the one of power and action, success, making things happen. So you visualize that out there. You visualize certain light coming and purifying, you're magically purifying, and then you visualize that coming inside you, absorbing into you, and then you visualize I am. You imagine now, I am Tara. You imagine being that yourself. So this, they call this divine pride. It's a practice, it's a commitment. You know, in your practice, you're imagining, you're not the Buddha yet, you're a bag of bones still. You're full of misery and delusion, but you're identifying the virtues that are there and you're enhancing them. You're bringing them in the front of you. You're imagining this is who you are now. Not to live in a fantasy world, but to energize that part of yourself. So all the time then, Lama, you know, he could see with us, we can see ourselves, we are addicted to the misery. We run to the misery. And as soon as we have a person who's a friend, even a halfway nice friend, we're going to start vomiting all our unhappiness. I'm not being mean about us, because we can't bear the pain of all our suffering. We have to give it to somebody, because we're like a baby. When something, you look into this, it's quite interesting. When you're a child, and your brother's mean to you, that's the first thing you do. You burst into tears like you're having a mental breakdown. You are having a mental breakdown. It's called attachment, not getting what it wants. And what do? You instantly run, if you have so lucky to have a mummy, and you cry your heart out, Mummy, Mummy. You have to tell Mummy, don't you? You can't possibly sit there and think, well, Johnny was mean to me and I think I can handle this myself. You sort of see what I'm saying here. We are still like that when we're 90, because we've never practiced knowing our mind. We've never practiced developing our quality. We've never practiced being our own therapist. The nature of delusions is that they're unbearable. We can't bear the pain. So what do? We vomit it out our mouth, not just to a friend, but to anybody who'll listen. You know, when you read like a child, you can't possibly bear the pain. So you've got to give it to somebody. And this is what I find most outrageous. Look what Mummy says. Oh, sweetheart, it's all right. And guess how you feel? She makes you feel better right there. All she did was say some words. All she did was say, it's okay, sweetheart. And you believe her. I mean, that shows how fragile our minds are. And we go through life like this. No wonder this boy goes and kills 27 people. This is the nightmare of our minds, you know, the delusions. So, in other words, he was obsessed with his own negativity. He couldn't see that. And he believed every story his mind told. And he actually went that far. And actually that far, he must have practiced shooting in his mind for how long, you know? Out of control, like a nightmare. So, Lama Yeshe would talk all the time in his teachings. I'd read them and I was like nectar in my heart, but I couldn't get it because I was still obsessed with my negativity, you know. I'm so miserable, I'm so pathetic, but it's not possible, I'm not like that, no, I can't. You know, 27 people can tell you you're a nice person. Look, it's impossible to hear it, isn't it? No, it's not possible. No, I'm not, I'm miserable. No, you're wrong. We're desperate for them to keep saying it like vampires. We're desperate they say it to us again. But we can't believe them. Because why? Because the neuroses are running the show. And that's what we believe. That's who we think we are. So clearly, at the first level of practice in the sutra teachings, we've got to confront that stuff. We've got to have the courage to look into it, to have our hands in that stinking rotten stuff. To see how it's causing pain. That's very difficult. And then often what can happen is we can get even more miserable because we get obsessed with it all. And indeed attached to our neuroses. So then along comes Tantra. Lama Yeshe is so kind, bringing this stuff down to earth for us. You know, or even the Bodhisattva path, where you're consciously seeing the good, especially Tantra. You're seeing the good qualities within you. This is why even, like I said last night, even in ordinary life, if you're always walking around looking like miserable, wearing misery, showing misery to everybody else, looking all long-faced and depressed, and anybody who asks you how you are, give them a long version of how miserable you are. I mean, you understand my point. Instead of this, have some divine pride and imagine, try to identify with your good roommates. There's love there, and wisdom, and kindness, and compassion. Be aware that you're appearing in front of someone else. Be like Grace Kelly. Of course I have to look beautiful, she said. People have to look at me. That's an incredible concept. It means you actually have a sense of yourself interdependently with others, and that you're a gift to others instead of this ugly old thing you dump on others. You know what I'm trying to say? See yourself as something good. I don't mean, right now we do it with attachment, but we're still like a vampire, you know, thinking, oh, I want someone to love me. That's different. You make yourself nice because you identify with that part of yourself, and that's what you offer to others. And then of course, when you're with others, one really incredible kind method is you speak to that part of another person. We always speak to our misery. Like I said, you've got this alcoholic brother. People only define him in terms of being an alcoholic. They only remember that part of himself. They only look at him with sad eyes and self-pity and all. Feeling sorry for him and insulting him and giving him lectures. Speak to the better part of him. Alcoholic's only one part of him. But we're obsessed with that part of ourselves, and therefore everybody else. But speak to the better part of him, you know, to help lift him up. It's up to him then when he'll come to the party. Are you hearing me, people? This is straight from Tantra. Divine pride. It's very, very powerful, I tell you. You lift your own self up. Identify with your goodness. We call it affirmations in the West. We took it straight from Tantra, you know. It's okay, it's great. Everyone can have it. So what's the question, sweetheart? What's the one? Yeah.
You actually, the piece you just said is something that I've been thinking about, speaking to the best part of somebody else.
Yeah.
And then something that you just said a little bit before, or 27 different people could say to you, you're wonderful, you're wonderful, you never hear it. I was curious, I guess, do you think by speaking to the best part in somebody else that they might be able to change their view of themselves? Almost like the 2 cups. Someone explains to you, no, there really aren't 3, there's 2.
That's right.
People continually speak to you or speak to the best part of you. Do you begin to see something different than...
But that's the point. That's the point of it.
Right.
That's the point of it.
But why do you think? But why do you think then 27 people say it to you and you still don't believe it? Is that karma that you're not ready to?
No, forget that karma, dear. It's because we're addicted to that view ourselves.
So we have to begin to loosen that addiction.
Yeah, that's the point. Because I believe it myself. I'm hopeless. I see the attachment, because we have the ego grasping, which is addicted to only negativity. Ego grasping and ego are only about negativity. They're not about the virtue. They can't be. They're only about negativity. So because we're overwhelmed by the sense of a separate I, therefore overwhelmed by a bottomless pit of craving to get what I want, and therefore never satisfied, we're only ever seeing misery, only ever hearing misery, only ever thinking I'm a creep. That's what ego does. It thinks I'm a creep. But like a vampire, I'm desperate for other people. This is the worst attachment of all. Worse than for sex, drugs, power, killing, or anything. It's attachment to other people liking me. So even though I'm like a vampire, wanting someone to like me and praise me, I'm like a vampire to get them to say it. But the irony, the tragic irony is, because I'm addicted to thinking I'm a creep, I refuse to believe them. And then one person says one bad word about me, I run like a magnet. Believe it perfectly because I believe it. So it's really hard. I remember when I first heard the teachings, I first heard Lama Yeshe talking like this. I heard it was like nectar on my broken heart. But I was addicted to this misery. Even whenever I spoke with Lama, I was like, blah, you know? My misery. And he'd say other things, good things. I remember him praising me about it, and I couldn't believe it. I did not believe it. Because like the self-pity, I was yearning for Lama to love me, which he did, but I didn't know how to use it properly, you know. So I was all over, kind of all emotional, like we are in relationships, kind of just dying to share all the junky. So we're kind of real tragics, you know. You understand? So it really takes time. For myself, I remember it took like years of hearing the Buddha's teachings to stop the belief in the angry me as real. I can almost remember the moment when a crack opened and it was like this revelation that it's true, Robina, you are angry, but it's not who you really are. In fact, one of the times was when Lamieshi said this to me. It was like always, Lamieshi kind of, one's laughing, it kind of blew my mind. He didn't have long conversations with me. It was always like a zap, you know. Talk about transmission of words. One time he said, and I was feeling sorry for myself yet again, and he said, there's nothing wrong with your heart, dear, it's just your behaviour. And it sort of blew my mind, because suddenly I realised, oh, I'm okay. It's just my body and speech. I sort of kind of was a way open, you know. I thought, oh wow. It was very helpful. So that's the point about ego grasping and all the delusions. They're addicted to their view. We're addicted to the view, I'm bad, I'm no good, I'm this, I'm pathetic, I'm not fair, blah, blah, blah. And then you only notice all that other, that whatever out there, we only notice the bad stuff, which reflects right back and then reinforces, I told you I was a creep, you see, you believe it. But 427 can say you're not, nah, come on. Oh, say it again, please. Nah, come on. Say it again, please. That's how ego is. We are really tragics, you know. I mean, we should be heartbroken. We should be. Because look at the consequences. You know. Get that far. So that's why Tantra is so powerful in identifying with your virtues. Identify with your virtues. That visualizing Tara. Imagine her coming in. Imagining our Tara. Of course, it's fake it till you make it. But it's powerful, man. It's amazing, you know. Yeah. Elizabeth.
I go back and forth, and sometimes I thought I was really strong and all this, and now recently I've kind of gone down and all that. So
of course, well, we do. We go up and down.
I was thinking of an exercise, and I just wanted to know. You're really clear. You're a great teacher. It's wonderful to listen to you. Now you're famous. You're a great teacher. You travel the world.
Sorry, what's all this? Who are you talking to? I don't know what you're talking about. What are you saying about that?
If you take all that away, do you ever use it as an exercise to take away all that wonderful...
What, darling?
Do you ever take away your fame or your
Who?
intelligence? You.
Well, don't
As
assume
an
I think
exercise.
that. I don't think that even for 1 second. What are you talking about?
You don't.
That's
Okay.
disgusting thought. I would never think such a thought.
Okay.
That's grotesque. I couldn't think that thought. That's the most arrogant, pride, revolting, deluded thought. I mean, I'm pretty deluded, but not that much.
So you've actually
I don't think those thoughts. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you've attained that ability.
I don't have attained anything. I just do my best to let go of attachment and try and do my job nicely.
Yeah, great.
Sorry being defensive here. I'm not being defensive. I'm just letting you know.
No,
I don't know
get
those
it.
thoughts. I don't know who you're talking about.
I get it. It's good.
I'm not trying to be
Teaching.
rude here or anything or live in... I mean, famous. I don't know about that. Maybe.
Well, I'm just
I
exaggerating.
know, I understand you are, darling.
As
But
an exercise.
that's... Okay, no, for me, I'd rather use the words... You know, my roommates, I've got a bunch of deluded ones. The pride, the over-exaggeration of who I think I am, which of course, you know, whatever the thoughts are. The arrogance, the jealousy, the depression, they're the voices all chatting away. You try to hear... The wisdom in you hears them clearly and argues with them. And then you identify with the virtue and you try to practice those. That's the best I can say. That's what I'm trying to do every day. Practicing on my mind.
I'm sorry if I...
No, please, excuse me. You didn't do anything wrong.
Okay,
I mean, that sounds so blunt how I said it. Of course it did. Anyway, I just want to say they're not my thoughts. But I know your point now. I understand your point.
It's good.
I understand. So the exercise has to be you just listen to each thought. Pride, jealousy. I mean, they're all there somewhere. They have to be. But not in such a... Anyhow, excuse me. I did jump in quite quickly about that one, didn't I? Whatever your delusions are. Whatever your delusions are. Whether it's okay, we've got to name them. So arrogance or pride is a delusion that exaggerates your good qualities. Over-exaggerates your importance. Low self-esteem is a delusion that exaggerates your bad qualities. And they both go hand in hand. And we go between one of those and the other. Don't be up and down like yo-yos. Attachment exaggerates the deliciousness and aversion exaggerates the ugliness. You know, these ones. These are the main ones. Jealousy is like as a result of anger. How dare that person have, because I'd rather have it. They're just different. There's not that many really, but they're all kind of mixing together, you know. So you're watching each one like a hawk, doing the best you can, not to believe in their stories. But more and more, as I'm saying here, trying to identify with being enlightened, being the Buddha, being compassionate, being wise, knowing the truth, but identifying with that part, reminding yourself of that part. Doing these practices hugely reinforces that part of you and helps you go toward, become that part. Anyway, why don't you finish your sentence and tell me the technique that you're talking about, how it works for you.
Me?
Yeah, that technique you were describing. So how does it work for you? You
How
don't have
do
to
you
tell
use
us all
it?
your secret delusions. You have to tell us your...
Well, I just see you as being able
No,
to...
not me, you.
But me, I probably don't look at that. and
Look at what?
wallowing in my ego. Well, I'm probably not working and
Of course you are. That's why you're sitting in this room, sweetheart.
I know, but it's like, it's,
You are working on your mind. Come on.
no, I am, but it's like, it's this far away. It comes and it goes, and you remember and you don't remember.
Well, that's it, isn't it, darling?
Something triggers you.
Sweetheart,
It's the
that's
same for
it.
everybody here, though.
That's it, though, but that's it. That is it. That's how we all are, and it's one baby step at a time. And this is why when you do the 7 in prayer, and there's a line there that says rejoice. We don't even hear the meaning of that. It just sounds like some holy thing. What that means is to consciously list to yourself your good qualities. And look at how we never stop thinking about bad ones. So we have to, even just that level, forget Tantra. Just remember your good qualities. Remember the effort you're making. Remember that all the morality you must have practiced in the past to be this person, to have the Dharma. Remember that you've got this wish to practice. We've got to do that. And that even the simplest level is how I'm talking about speaking to the better part of yourself. Forget Tantra, just that one. Remember your good qualities. It doesn't mean exaggerate them. Just state them, because they're true, but we never, ever think them. You see what I'm saying? We've got to think about good qualities. So if you want, using my life, I can think, okay, great, I go around the world and I'm doing what Mama's Over said, which is the so-called teach. Well, I can delight in that and be happy and own it and be delighted with that. And indeed, even there's other things. If some people know my name and they like it, then I'm happy with that. Some people don't know my name and don't like it. I'm happy with that too. You see my point? We delight in the good qualities. Pride exaggerates them. Rejoicing sees it. So we can't just think there's no good quality. Don't extreme the other way and think there's no bad quality. We've got to see them for what they are. We've got to do both. Acknowledging the negativity, which is the confession line, and then rejoice in the virtues, which is the next line. We've got to do both. And the more we can acknowledge our good qualities, the more easy it is to acknowledge the bad ones. If we only acknowledge the bad, we'll drag ourselves down to misery, which is what ego does. That's the terrible irony of ego. We've got to delight in our good qualities. And I'm really serious about that. So Tantra just takes that to another degree, that's all. Do you understand my point? Yeah.
I mean, I could show you a case where it was really hard for me. It was just, I was complaining to somebody, and I'm not getting this, and it's going on and on and on. And she just looked at me and she said, be happy. And I went, but how can I be happy? And I kept on with my soap opera, you know what I mean? But it was hard to get to that.
It is. No, it is. And that's what I remember Lama Yeshe used to say to us, you've got to practice being happy. And that's why let's analyse that. It's a very good point. What we think happy means is a feeling. Doesn't it? We think happy means a feeling. You can't force a feeling, but we can have happy thoughts. We can say happy thoughts, positive thoughts. I am doing well. I am practicing. I am doing my best. That is a good thing. We might feel miserable, but we can say, that's what practicing being happy means. Because, you see, again, let's remember, we get born in this life totally programmed with past attachment, which manifests as deep dissatisfaction. The deepest, most primordial, junky level of I don't have enough, I am not enough. In other words, the glass is half full. But I mean primordially, deeply suffering. That addiction to believing in only the misery. That's a function of past attachment. Honestly, but it's just default mode. And that's why this boy, profound dissatisfaction, which gave her up, because whatever happened, you know, that his mother, he killed his mother first. Whatever it was, all he saw was misery. He had the sickness of dissatisfaction. Some people go off and fill themselves with heroin. He went on and killed people. Because there was profound attachment, and then rage, because he thought his attachment wasn't getting what it wanted, which was whatever it was, which was a bottomless pit, and it could never have gotten satisfied. That's the terrible suffering of attachment. And it's deep in our bones. Do you understand what I'm saying? You can see some people, they just are more content. That's because they haven't got that much attachment. And then the best they get is when things go wrong, they go, oh, drat. And that's it, they change their mind. I mean, they're like a miracle, people like that. That means they haven't got much attachment. If you haven't got much anger, it means in that way you can be quite satisfied. You can content, you can sort of adjust yourself to the situation. Whereas you look at this poor boy, total insane attachment, insane, and then insane pride as well, out of his brain. You know, Let's do a little meditation, then we can finish. I'll lead you in, but I've got to have a whiz out to the little girls' room. The bathroom. The bathroom. Excuse me. Have a wriggle and get ready. We can do a quick meditation. Oh, house. So just get comfortable. Be comfy, but also have the body to be kind of alert. Get too comfortable, you go to sleep. That's not helpful. Well, it's easy, but not here. Wrong time. Just to have your body, whatever's the best way. They talk about how the best to have the body very relaxed, all the muscles. The way I like to say it is you think of all your muscles, all the soft bits, completely relaxed, but your infrastructure, your bones, your skeleton, completely ramrod straight, if you can, you know. And have all the fat and the flesh hanging on those bones. So it's a nice combination of relaxed but alert, upright. And they all say they have the best to have your head slightly tilted forward, chin tucked in a bit. And then your eyes, you have your jaw relaxed, lips apart slightly, tip of the tongue behind the top teeth, resting there. The practical benefit of that apparently is when you meditate a lot, you don't dribble. It's quite practical. And then your eyes looking down, as if you're looking along your nose. All the great meditators say really best to have your eyes open, because if you're in the daytime, the light comes in, which makes the mind, keeps the mind nice and sharp. But for most of us, of course, we probably get too distracted. So have your eyes lightly closed, your eyes looking down as if you're looking along your nose, not up in your head. So just settle into this position now, okay? And we just do a very simple version of a visualization technique. And this is the essence of all the practices. This is an attitude of having the Buddha out there. You do some purification, then the Buddha comes in and you become the Buddha. It's a way of practicing the entire path to enlightenment, but kind of visually, you know? So we imagine in front of us the embodiment of all the enlightened qualities, but showing the aspect, as they say, of Tara. She means, word Dharma, Tara, liberator. Liberator from the fears of samsara, she's often called. And she represents this third essential energy of an enlightened being, this power. You've got to have compassion that wants to help others. You have to have wisdom that knows how, and then the power to do so. And she, if you like, she represents that quality. So in our daily life, you think that she represents this energy of success, action, courage, cut through the obstacles, make things happen. We all want that one badly. We all need that one badly. Okay, so if you have it, okay, so we visualize Tara, and they say all these visualizations, all the Buddhas in this aspect, in Tantra, in Bodhisattva path, they're all like it's in the royal aspect, or the aristocratic Indian royal aspect, looking totally gorgeous with earrings and in the Indian style, you know, wearing silken clothes. But the key one too is that they're about 16 years old, in the prime of their youth, totally gorgeous. The whole point is to energize us, to make us very happy, delighted, blissful, radiant. So she's 16 years old, utterly beautiful, mainly naked, green light body, lower part of her body's got gorgeous silken, kind of, you see it in the pictures, kind of rainbow coloured kind of clothes. Everything's radiant, everything's made of light, nothing substantial. She's about eye level. Utterly beautiful, subtle light body. Everything's radiant light, green, which is action energy. Her face, incredibly beautiful, blissful, sweet red mouth. Sometimes you hear that her eyes are slightly wide open, which is sort of like action energy as opposed to meditative. And also because she's slightly kind of wrathful, slightly this is kind of showing her power. And looking at you, and if you can imagine it, with immense love. If you have a lama, if you have a spiritual teacher, even if you're not sure who would you like, say you like the Dalai Lama or you like some lama, you think it's their mind manifesting as Tara for your benefit. Makes it very personal. Radiant green body. And her, you know, in the Indian style, her hair, long black hair down her back, so crystal clear and partially held up in a top knot. Decorated with the jewels and things like you see in the pictures and the statues. The front of her head, like a tiara, is 5-pointed crown. And every bit of this, every one of these components has a meaning. You know, we won't go into the detail here. Just get the overall meaning of power, blissfully compassionate, blissfully wise, but immense action energy, success, power. Gorgeous, the upper part of her body kind of maybe like little silken shawls and things you see in the pictures. Gorgeous, beautiful breasts, very beautiful, it is beautiful. Lower part of her body in these silken clothes. Her left leg is drawn in meditation. The right leg though is out, resting on another, and she's sitting on a multicoloured lotus, and her right foot is also sitting on a little multicoloured lotus. She's resting her leg like that. And this is in this action pose. She's ready to hop up, to do what needs to be done to benefit sentient beings, to benefit you. Her right hand is on her right knee, her right palm is up, and her thumb and ring finger holding the stem of a blue flower that blooms at her right ear. And this gesture or mudra of the palm up is this gesture of giving. Her left hand at her heart, the fingers pointing up, the ring finger and thumb again holding the stem of another blue flower that blooms at her left ear. And this gesture or mudra, I think it's called the three jewels. I don't remember. The other three fingers pointing up at her heart. Her feet, her wrists, ankles, neck, ears, upper arms, all decorated with gorgeous jewels, like an Indian style. And everything is just utterly beautiful, radiant, light, blissful. And everything is a manifestation of her mind, her radiant, perfect, enlightened, blissful, compassionate mind. And she's there, manifesting only for your sake. The only reason that Buddha mind takes a form is to benefit us. Because there's no ego, there can only be bliss, there can only be wisdom, there can only be compassion. And that compassion is not abstract, it's genuine affection for me. My Lama, manifesting as Tara for my benefit. So now we think, she's so compassionately, so kindly. From her brow sends radiant beams of white light that enter my brow. Fill me completely. First of all, instantly purifying, eradicating all the pain and heaviness and suffering of my body, sickness, the pain, the problems, the obstacles of my body. And also imagining, totally purifying all the imprints of all the harm I've ever done since beginningless time with my bodies to sentient beings. Totally purifying this. And full of this radiant, blissful white light. Again, Lama Tara so kindly sends from her brow radiant beams, laser light beams of light that enter my brow, instantly filling me. This time, filling me with my own potential to have this Buddha body, this body that's only capable of benefiting others. Imagining this body right now, only possible to benefit others. But not only that, but the capacity to manifest in millions of subtle light bodies throughout space for the sake of suffering sentient beings for as long as time exists. This capacity, this potential. But right now feel body light, blissful, no pain, and only capable of helping others. Full of this marvelous potential, this white light. Now Tara, Lama Tara so kindly sends this time from her throat radiant beams of red laser light that enter my throat, instantly filling me, and this time eradicating every atom of the imprints of all the harm I've ever done since beginningless time with my speech. All the lying, speculating, harsh speech, the rabbiting on about nothing speech, and all the negativity of speaking about others' faults behind their backs. All the harm I've ever done to sentient beings with my speech. Completely eradicated. Full of this radiant red light. And also feel all the hopelessness of our speech, the inability to express ourselves clearly, the frustration we have with our speech, and unable to say what we really feel, all of this confusion of our speech. All of this, absolutely purified. Not one atom left. Full of this radiant red light. Again, Lama Tara sends this red light from her throat to my throat, filling me completely. Blissful red light. This time with my potential, my natural potential for clear, wise, kind, compassionate speech, such that every sound I utter is of benefit to whoever hears it, even if it's just saying hello. The power of speech, they say. This extraordinary, marvelous ability to be of benefit to others. And it's the main gift of the Buddha, the power of speech. The ability to give advice and say the right thing at the right time for the person who's listening, to be of benefit to them perfectly. Imagine this, that every word we say, every sound we utter is a benefit. And it's necessary for the sake of others, Imagine this, full of this marvelous, incredible potential. This red light filling us. And now Lama Tara very kindly sends from her heart and the centre of her chest powerful beams of blue light, blue like the sky, that enter into our heart and this time first instantly eradicate all the suffering of this mind of ours, which is the basis of all the things we do with our heart, body and speech to harm others, and which of course is the source of our own suffering. The ignorance that clings to the me, the attachment to get that me wants, the anger when it doesn't, and all the others, the variations, the guilt, the oppression, the self-hate, the anxiety, the fears, the worries, the jealousy, all of this. Absolutely eradicated. Imagine this. Eradicated. Full of this blissful blue light. Again, Lama Tara, this time again sends these beams, laser beams of blue light that enter my heart, filling me instantly, this time with what? Nothing but my potential. Now only space for the bliss, for the clarity, for the joy, compassion, love. All these qualities that are at the core of my being, that do define me, that are who I really am. Now there's no choice but these. Absolutely blissful, clear, compassionate, wise, loving, my own true nature, full of this radiant blue light. And now we think we've removed all the obstacles to our liberation, all the obstacles to our own ability to be an arhat, enemy destroyer. But now we're going to remove even the subtlest imprints, the obstacles to our omniscience, as they say. It's a bit like I heard one Lama say, it's like the first level of purification, you remove the garlic from the jar, now we have to remove even the smell. So even the subtlest imprints that are obscuring us from our own true nature of Buddhahood. This time Lama Tara very compassionately sends these 3 lights simultaneously. White to the brow, red to the throat, blue to the heart. Entering into us, these 3 lights, and then removing even these subtlest imprints of all the delusions, all the ancient habits. And thus manifesting our own perfection, infinite wisdom, infinite compassion, and this particular quality of Tara, infinite power, action, no hesitation, able to do whatever needs to be done to be successful, the courage, the power to do this, all of our own true nature, fully manifesting, these 3 lights filling us. This is who I really am. So now we think, now that I'm the Buddha, this is fine for me, but what about sentient beings? Why have I worked for so long to become the Buddha? Only for sentient beings. The only reason I even need a body, for sentient beings. Actually, I jump a bit. I forgot a step. Go back. So we think now we imagine Lama Tara so blissfully, so delighted with us. First of all, we imagine the multicolored lotus she sits on and the one beneath her foot, they just dissolve into light into her body. Imagine this. And then she, delighting, wanting to become oneness with us. She comes to sit above our heads, facing the same way as us. Imagine. And then she very happily dissolves into green light and absorbs through our crown and then merges, you imagine, merging completely into me, within me, merging with my body, my speech and my mind. So I think Lama's body, speech, mind, Tara's body, speech, mind, my body, speech, mind, same thing. Completely blissful, no separation. Union, oneness, as Mama Yeshe would say. This is who I really am. Completely blissful. And so for a moment, just stop the thoughts. Imagine just pure, clear, blissful, radiant light. No thoughts. So now think, what good is this for other people? I've worked all this year, all this countless lives to become a Buddha. Finally I've accomplished it. So now I must be of benefit to sentient beings. No choice. That's my job now. So in front of us we imagine, just quickly, all sentient beings of the universe. All in the form of human beings, but all experiencing their own suffering, according to their own realm. But they're in the form of humans, which is the form they can get enlightened in. So we divide them all into friends, enemies and strangers, the objects of the 3 delusions. The objects of attachment, friends, the objects of aversion, enemies, and 99.99% of the rest, the objects of indifference, the strangers. Right in front of you, enemies in front, friends to the left, then the strangers to the right, and then as far as you can imagine, behind, above, below, behind you, pervading space. Remember, Buddha says, there's not an atom of space you won't find sentient beings. So now we imagine from our heart, trillions and trillions of little green taras go out. You're first entering into the hearts of the enemies. You see them free from their suffering, full of their bliss, full of their happiness, and then transforming into their Tara. They're the friends, they're the strangers. Just daydream about that. Use your creative imagination. Imagine that. Want that. And going out from all sides, from behind, from below you, all the millions of Taras going out in all directions. Taking away the suffering of all these sentient beings, giving them everything they need and turning them into their own Tara. Imagining this, wanting this. And now we just continue this for a couple of minutes while we now recite the mantra of Tara, which is just a verbal representation of the same energy. As the sound goes out, you imagine it raining down green light on all these sentient beings, blessing them even more marvelously. Continuing to visualize. Om Tare Tu Re Soha. 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 We're all Taras now. Imagine. How marvelous. And now you finish with just imagining all these Taras from all directions transform into green light and all absorb into you, enhancing even more brilliantly your Tara nature. Imagine that. And then we finish thinking, just doing this little visualization. It really is a visual path to enlightenment. We began being ordinary, Buddha out there, we purified all delusions, Buddha came inside, we became the Buddha, we transformed all benefits, we benefited all sentient beings. The entire path to enlightenment right there, sowed the seeds of all of that in our minds. How amazing. And then listening to all the teachings, whatever meaning they have, we nourish these seeds we planted from this moment forward with our effort, wanting to activate this potential that is natural within me, that's innate within me, that's in there, waiting to be manifested. How insane not to do it. So we can become an enlightened being to be of benefit to sentient beings. Jangchub semchog rinpoche, makye panam kegyuchi, ke panyampa me payam gong ne gong du babashu. Okay, thanks everybody. Okay. Okay. Good heavens, okay, good, thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, little mummy of Saskia. I better go to New York, isn't it? Do you know, I decided to pack my bag, but I kept thinking, I don't need that, I don't need this, so I'll tell you what I'm going with.
Yourself.
Just yourself.
My iPad and my driving license. And my prayers on my iPod. I bring my prayers, my iPad with my books on it, my prayers with my iPod. And but do you think they'll think I'm a bit weird? Maybe they'll think I'm a terrorist or something. Not having a bag. What do you think?
No, not with that happy face, no.
Not where is it? Where is it? Sorry, no, it's a fundraising party for the Shantideva Buddhist Centre there, our sister centre, and I'm their talker. I suppose